There's an upcoming book, and it says that Speaker Pelosi called General Mark Milley, demanding that he take the football, that satchel which contains the nuclear launch codes, take it away from former President Trump. What do you make of that, Katie?
Look, I know from personal experience that Woodward plays, fast and loose with the truth. But if there is anything to this story, whether it's Pelosi-Milley connection, whether it's General Milley and the Chinese connection, it all needs to be investigated because the president, we have civilian control of the military. And if General Milley was trying to take that civilian control away from the president of the United States and somehow he himself is going to be in charge, or maybe he and Nancy Pelosi in collusion are going to take away the responsibilities and privileges of the President of the United States, that's a really serious thing. This is not just like, a bad Newsday story in Washington, D.C. This goes to the heart of the fundamental aspect of the Constitution, which is civilian control of the military. General Milley, if he was worried about President Trump's sanity, and Nancy Pelosi, if she was worried, they had a lot of ways they could deal with it other than a call to the Chinese military.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people are just shaking their heads here. This is the very top levels of America's government. And we have the chairman of the Joint Chiefs talking to his Chinese military counterpart and saying, maybe saying, I mean, it's not been proven yet, but maybe saying, hey, we'll give you a warning if we're going to attack you. And stories about Pelosi demanding that the president not have the football with him. Who would have thought that we would be talking like this about the topmost levels of America's government?
There's a reason that General Milley's nickname at the Pentagon is General Windsock. He sort of blows with the wind. I think a lot of this, look at the timeline, Stuart. When did General Milley talk to Woodward? It was after the election. What was his worry after the election? He was worried that he was going to be fired by the incoming Biden administration. We saw the Biden administration's fired everybody connected to Trump. Well, Milley was appointed by Trump. So I think part of this was to ingratiate himself with the new Biden administration saying, hey, look, I'm not a Trump guy. I'm not a Trump guy. Keep me on as chairman of the Joint Chiefs.
Amazing. Just amazing. Katie McFarland, thank you very much for being here. I know we'll see you again soon. Thank you very much.